Summer movie season is in full swing, and we're reviewing a bunch of new summer movies on this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Hello and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's June 15th, 2024, and this is episode 123. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my website, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. Happy summer, everyone. This episode is basically just a mega review episode of new movies that are now playing in theaters. It's, being that it's summer, there's just a lot of blockbusters or movies that we're hoping to be blockbusters that have been released. And also just an interesting variety of films. So there's going to be 5 movies that I'll be reviewing on this episode. And as of recording, they're all playing in theaters, I think, for the most part. This first film that I'm going to talk about, I think, is in more limited release. But it's Young Woman and the Sea. This is a film from Disney. And from what I've read, this film was actually slated to go directly to Disney Plus, and the powers that be decided to put it in theaters, which I think was a really wise decision. This is a really beautiful film. It's about a swimmer. Her name was Trudy Ederle. She's an American woman, and who in 1926, she was the first woman to ever swim across the English Channel. And so this film just is a history about this remarkable event and this brave and determined woman who made it happen. It's got a really lovely. This film it's a sports movie at its core, and it just, I think, portrays the story in such a lovely artistic way. The production design is great. The just the look of it is great. The actors are terrific. Trudy in the film is played by British actress Daisy Ridley. As you may remember from, she played Rey in these last Star Wars films, and a great supporting cast, and I thought a very inspiring story that it was very well told. So I highly recommend Young Woman in the Sea. I'm not sure it's in wide release, but it was nice to see in theaters a really quality sports film and family film. Again, reminiscent of Disney days of old, but just a terrific film. It's directed by a Norwegian director named Joachim Roning. He's done some other Disney projects. Most recently, he directed one of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. It was Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales, which was a pretty lousy film, if you ask me. But still, it wasn't completely his fault because there was a script. He often directs too. Joachim has directed with a partner who's named Espen Sandberg, but then of course he's done some stuff on his own. He also directed one of those Maleficent movies. It was Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. That came out in 2019, and hate those films. But anyway, he right now is in post production of the third film in the Tron series for Disney. So I'm pretty stoked about that because I really love the Tron movies. So anyway, that's just your movie trivia. But go see Young Woman in the Sea, and hopefully you can see it in the theater because it's really just a lovely quality film. Next up is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This is the origin story of the renegade warrior Furiosa before she teamed up with Mad Max. So just a little bit of info about this sequel. It's, of course, within this Mad Max family of films, and it's basically a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015. So I absolutely loved Mad Max Fury Road. I just thought it was the most exhilarating film that I'd seen in a really long time. It's, of course, incredibly violent and just crazy, but again, it was a thrill, and I just can't say enough good stuff about Mad Max Fury Road. So I went into Furiosa thinking that, and this is because same creative team, same director, George Miller, that this we were probably going to be getting just kind of more of that, and that was not the case. Furiosa is a huge disappointment in my book. In Mad Max Fury Road, the film that came out in 2015, Charlize Theron plays this character Furiosa, and Furiosa has a prosthetic arm. And so in Mad Max Fury Road, and when we start Furiosa, the sequel, this prequel, that just came out this summer. We meet up with the character when she's quite young, and she's got both arms. So I think part of the problem, and I will own this, is that I just kept waiting for the very gruesome detachment of Furiosa's arm. Just thought, this is going to be so gross and so horrific. So I kept dreading that. And it doesn't, spoiler alert, but it doesn't happen until 2 hours into this film, where she finally loses her arm. And of course it's grisly. And, the film is just this mess of dialogue or non-dialogue, because really Furiosa doesn't talk. In this prequel, the character Furiosa is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who's a very good actress, and she's got the perfect scowl, just like Charlize Theron did. But it's just she just feels more like a prop than anything. And Chris Hemsworth is also in it. He plays the big bad in this. And, he's such a physical presence. But his character, I just thought, was so poorly written. And, they give him a lot to do. He's in just a ton of the film. But, and he's not supposed to be a likable character, but he's so unbearably stupid that, and not like in a goofy way. It's just this, he's just this horrible dictator and leader, but it just comes across that he's just an idiot. Maybe that's the point, but it made it, for me, that was another thing that made it almost unwatchable. It was all I could do to stay in the seat through this film, and it's long too. It's like at least 2.5 hours. So Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, for me, a huge disappointment. and really an absolute bore. Uh, there are occasionally some of the exciting scenes with the interesting camera work or whatever that really made Mad Max Fury Road stand out, but those are few and far between in this film. There's lots of CGI, and I think that there was probably plenty of CGI in Mad Max Fury Road, but you couldn't really tell. This one is pretty obvious, and it really affects the way the action plays out in this particular film. I'm not trying to necessarily rip on CGI because it's such a great artistic tool, or can be, but boy, not well used in this film, and this film was just an absolute downer and a drag. So yeah, not a fan of Furiosa Mad Max Saga, and I couldn't recommend that. Next up is the Garfield movie. So we've got a fully speaking of CGI, but it's CGI animation, really done in animated style, about the sassy cat full of attitude Garfield. And there have been a lot of film adaptations of Garfield. Well, first off, we'll just as you know, Garfield was born as a comic strip. Back in the day, when we'd read newspapers, I'd always read the comics in addition to the movie section, and then whatever else was interesting, headlines, sports, etc. But Garfield was just this comic strip about this cat who liked to eat lasagna. He had a major attitude. He would torment the dog in the house, Odie, and of course then there was the the owner that I believe is John. Yeah, John's the name of the owner. The pet parent, whatever you want to call him. But so this film, when I had read about it initially, I thought it sounded, it might be interesting. Again, I'm not a huge Garfield fan. I mean, let's just put it that way. Even though I would read the Garfield comic in the newspaper, I never found the character that appealing. I mean, I think he, back in the day, he was, I think, really quite popular, and people would find his snarky attitude funny. But anyway, this animated film was being directed by Mark Dindal, and Mark is an animation director who hasn't made a movie in quite a while. In fact, I think his last movie was it was Chicken Little that he made that he was the director of for Walt Disney Animation Studios, and Chicken Little was painful. That's another story for another day. However, he also worked on and he was the director of Disney's The Emperor's New Groove from 2000, which, if you've never seen that, that's one you should see. That movie is such a kick. You can't even believe that Disney made it. It's so the comedy in it is really something great. It's so anyway. So that Mark Dindal was attached to this Garfield movie, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Maybe this is going to be good, and also that it's fully animated. The last Garfield movies that were released in theaters, that I recall, they were in 2004 and 2006, and how they did it was a CGI cat, CGI Garfield. But he was living in a human world, so it was like this hybrid, like a hybrid movie, which was really in vogue at the time. and Bill Murray voiced Garfield. And I probably saw it. If I didn't see it in the theater, I saw it like on DVD or something. And I remember it was horrible. And at least for me, I don't know generally if maybe there's people that like it, but and then again there was another one that came out in 2006. I think there've been some animated ones too that have been made more for like the direct to video or whatever you want to call it market, that people could just buy the DVD and take it home. It didn't play in theaters. And then of course lots of TV specials and things too. Most of those I think were done like in the 80s. But anyway, this Garfield film for me was also a real disappointment. I guess I just saw it more out of curiosity and that Mark Dindal was involved, so that was very interesting to me. But what they decided to do with this, and it looked like it had the blessing of Jim Davis, who's the creator of Garfield, or at least he was involved. They showed him, put his name in the credits. But it was a backstory. It's like where Garfield came from, and it turns out Garfield has a dad, named Vic, who had a bit of a questionable past, and got involved with some bad cats, some bad animals. So Garfield finds John, as you may be seen in the trailers. He's just a little baby kitten, and he appears that he was abandoned, but it turns out that his dad had just been gone temporarily just to try to find some food. But anyway, spoiler alert. But Garfield goes, sees John sitting alone in this Italian restaurant and is able to get through the window. And it's just, there's an instant bonding there. And then, of course, Garfield just eats all the pizza and lasagna in sight. And then he's got this very idyllic situation at home, which is what the comic was all about, right? I mean, just kind of this Garfield at home torturing Odie or just whatever, just being snarky. So there's some of that in the first few minutes. And then Garfield and Odie get kidnapped in association with what's going on, this crazy stuff going on with Garfield's dad. And then there's this other villain cat. Her name is Jinx, and there's all this stuff going on. So not only do we get this origin story, but then we get kind of like this whole new setup for storytelling with Garfield, about his kooky dad and the bad characters that the dad's involved with. This movie was so dumb, and again just disappointing. Maybe kids have liked it, and I am not the target audience, but I really just get frustrated with these backstories that get made because, in a way, I just felt this isn't Garfield. And again, not that Garfield is something like, they had just like little moments of it. And again, I know that's got to be tricky because how do you make that interesting if you're just going to be like Garfield at home torturing Odie or just being, just being sassy? You gotta have some kind of conflict and all this other stuff. But to bring in this crazy backstory about Garfield's dad and all the stuff it was just not good. And again, maybe kids are enjoying it, and the animation was the animation was quite interesting. That was probably the best part about it was the production design, the film. It's got a pretty impressive voice cast. Chris Pratt voices Garfield. Samuel L. Jackson voices Garfield's dad, Vic. Nicholas Hoult voices John. Hannah Waddingham plays this, this villainous cat, Jinx. And, again, the voice talent is top notch, but the story and the film are really stupid. Even Snoop Dogg shows up in this. Anyway, you just wonder. So sorry that Mark Dindal didn't make a more interesting film for me, but but I wish them all happy and success, even though I thought the film was lousy. But let's talk now finally about a really good animated film that just opened up this weekend. It's Pixar's Inside Out 2. So Inside Out 2 is a sequel to Inside Out. They came out 9 years ago in 2015. I adored the original Inside Out. Such a clever, such a beautifully done film. So emotional, such great music. It's just, another one of those home run from the magicians at Pixar. I was maybe a little skeptical about this, but also hopeful. There's been lots of, I think, just frankly, as I've talked about this before, but a lot of hate towards Pixar. I think partly just because, they've been so successful, and then the pandemic hits and they have to, 3 of their films got released onto the Disney Plus service rather than going into theaters. Some of that was, by necessity, given the nature of the pandemic, but and then I think a lot of people have been railing on about the quality of the films, and the storytelling isn't good or isn't up to their standards, etc. It was a revelation for me to see Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. The 3 films that Pixar had to release on Disney Plus, rather than in the theaters. They got released in the theaters earlier in the year, and being able to see those films on the big screen, it was like seeing them anew. And they were maybe not perfect, but really, really good. And I was sorry that audiences weren't giving it more of a shot. But that being said, Inside Out 2 is just absolutely wonderful. It is such a delight. It's set with the same characters. It's the same young girl, Riley, who just turns 13 at the beginning. I think this is when she turns out at the end of the 2015 one, and then that's where this film picks up, and or something very similar with their age. Anyway, the puberty alarm goes off in Riley's head with the emotions, and that's when everything it's kind of like all hell breaks loose, and more emotions show up, again, as you might have seen in the trailer. And the emotions are anxiety, ennui, which is boredom, envy, and embarrassment. And this film is so much fun. I was so impressed with the how clever the plot was and how funny it was. Just laughs throughout, but then also some real tender parts, but that are just expertly done. The first film was directed by Pete Docter, who is now the chief creative officer. He's basically the head of Pixar. So the directorial duties got turned over to a longtime story artist named Kelsey Mann, and I thought he and his team just did a fantastic job with the film. The animation's up to Pixar quality. It's absolutely stunning. See it on the biggest screen possible. I saw it in IMAX, and it's just so impressed and so wowed by it. And it's really, even though all the emotions are involved, it's really kind of this battle between joy and anxiety. And you just I think can relate to how all this is going down, because we were all teenagers once. However, how did we ever survive it, right? But uh, I just think it's such a wonderful uh, look into just growing up and human nature, uh, as well as just being just an absolute blast. So I just can't say enough good things about Inside Out. To highly recommended, and just go to the theater and have a ball. Well, actually, this is the final movie. Is Bad Boys Ride or Die. How could I forget? Maybe I was just trying to block it out. But uh, Bad Boys Ride or Die is a sequel. It's the fourth film in this whole Bad Boys series of films. The very first Bad Boys came out in 1995, if you can believe it. Uh, it's it's a cop series, right, or detectives. Uh, it talks. It's these all these films star Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as two detectives of the Miami Police Department. So it's all set in Southern Florida. Uh, the first two Bad Boys films were directed by Michael Bay, and Michael Bay is, he's got a very distinctive style, if you can call it style, but it's just bombastic and in your face, and it's just nonstop explosions and stuff that just it's kind of mindless. Some of it can be, I guess, mindless fun. I've these movies have never really spoken to me. The only thing I have found interesting about the Bad Boys movies have been the rapport between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, which is actually, I think they're pretty funny, and they're quite good. They're good together, and I think that's the appeal. Really, is that these actors actually have a lot of chemistry, and that's fun. Um, I can't say I've been a big Will Smith fan ever since the Oscar slap. So seeing him on the big screen was, um, maybe just a little unpleasant. Let's, just put it that way. But uh, the again, the chemistry is still there. Of course, they're a lot older now, both of these actors. But I feel like the way it was directed, it played into that. I thought in a good overall in a good way, and the chemistry still really shines. Bad Boys Ride or Die, I just think it's an absolutely stupid. It's a very stupid movie, but it felt like it was from the mid '90s, and that maybe was the point. Just given just everything about just these characters and the action involved and the villains and the locations, just so if you're a fan of these other Bad Boys movies, I think you probably will like this one. I think audiences have been enjoying it too. People are going, and in a lot of ways, it's just kind of like a classic summer uh, action movie. Uh, and again, just kind of emphasis on, there's not a lot of brain cells that need to be involved with the watching of it, but again, no doubt the chemistry is still there with these actors, and they appear to be having just a lot of fun too. Of course, all the stuff happens, in the third act that you expect. There's the kidnapping of the guys' wives, and all that nonsense, which these tropes that I just really don't like very much. But it has a satisfying ending, and you know, I bet you that they're working on a fifth Bad Boys film right now, because this has been a hit. So if it's your thing, Again, go have fun. It's summer popcorn movie, but it was a bit, it was one of those, it was a bit torturous for me. So there you have it. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my website at moviespastandpresent.com. Subscribe to the podcast where you listen to podcasts, and follow me and send me messages on Instagram. My handle is @moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, be safe out there and dedicate yourself to the truth. Bye.